have your story. And the work of an editor, many people think on a publishing house is not just to correct your grammar. They are to shape your story so that it can be read out there and totally understood. Sometimes you write and your lingo not internationally might not be understood. So they'll show you, there's a gap here. They won't understand that Jaja is your grandma or your grandpa. So for me, the beautiful thing that they did after my first script, it was so expensive just to print that thing, and yet it wasn't in its best form. Quiet Garden Publishers helped me shape it into something the public can consume.
Awesome. Let's go into the book. One, Woven in Spirals. I know it's does it only tackle your personal story in your journey of priesthood, or you bring in a little bit of outside priesthood as well?
Well, really this records my experience. And the reason why it's called Woven in Spirals is something that was whispered to me on that day that I was priested. It normally takes someone in Church of Uganda on the Anglican Communion, after you leave theological college, you're ordained deacon. And the following year, if you are in good standing, you should be priested. That journey took 5 years for me.
And it usually takes how long for the men?
2. And the funny thing about it is that twice I was on the list and twice I was dropped. And that's what made it. If people weren't ready for priesting of women, it wouldn't have been. You're questioning yourself. Should I really be in this call? God, there's too much rejection here. Yes.
Maybe for someone watching who is thinking, but we see a lot of women priests now. This is what, 25 years ago, 30?
Yes. I went to theological college in 1986. Were you born yet?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, you see. So you came when the gateways had sort of opened a bit. I went to theological college. We were only 2 ladies in the class. In the whole, by the way, Bishop Tucker Theological College is now UCU.
Yes.
Uganda Christian University. And that beautiful campus used to be just for training clergy only, people in full-time ministry. So the whole campus was 220 students, and of them, the women, they were 13.
13 of the 220?
Yes, and in my class, the degree class, we were 2. Yes.
Yeah, that's 1986.
That's 86. And
well, now you have a little bit of context concerning that. Now, now we see a lot of lady priests, and we're like, yeah, I think the journey should be nice, but it wasn't as easy as we think.
No.
Discrimination. We're talking about it this morning. Discrimination. What I read from, or at least what I've read about Woven in Spirals is a lot of discrimination on your side. And earlier on, before we went on air, you were telling me the aim of the book wasn't necessarily to expose the people, but as if to tell us the journey towards it, right?
Yes.
But discrimination,
Okay.
it's still a thing.
Yes.
It's still a thing. We can't say in 86, I managed to go through, but has it gone away? Is it still there, or it's still there?
No,
particularly in priesthood.
Yes. Because there are gender stereotypes.
Yes.
There was a lady as early as 1953 who felt the passion and call to become a priest. A lady from Bunyoro, called Florence Njangali. And she, I mean, no one could dampen or quench her passion for serving. And she started off by sitting outside the class. She was accepted into Bishop Tucker, but she didn't sit in the class. You know, we laugh these days. You know, we talk about being kudirisa. She was literally kudirisa. Yes. She was not allowed to learn with her fellow men. And when she left, of course, then they became commissioned workers, which was a title only used for females, and which has been done away with once we became deacons and priests. We've never heard of a man commissioned worker. And a commissioned worker was, for me, less than a lay preacher. So here you are, you've sat 3 years in college, and you have a passion, you have a call, and you get what they call an ordination certificate, which means you haven't only passed the academics. They have said you have a call, and you have the capability of taking on this leadership. But the rest of the world, they say, are not ready for you. They're hesitant. And I think this is not just, it wasn't just the case for lawyers. Many young ladies in my class, I finished 79 S6, that far, we had engineers, and you'd sit like 3 ladies in the class of engineering, and in law. We were in Gayaza High School, and you were told you could be anything, but the world out there said, you be a nurse, you be a teacher, you be. But thank God there are male nurses today, right?
Sure.
And I think elderly men and people who go to hospital are very pleased to be nursed by a male.
Very, yes.
So there were stereotypes which come from our culture, but also for us in the church that have been read in through scripture. And have been people have endorsed them through scripture. But if you read the scripture through a lady's eyes, we see things a lot of the men don't see. And the people, the women who are co-workers with Paul, the women who followed Christ were disciples. The women are present, and they who brought Jesus into the world feel they have a place to play in bringing the gospel, the good news that he brings. So, yes, I think there are lots of things that have caused stereotyping, and we are growing even as a nation. But I think the church is very central in setting
the tone.
The tone,
All right. We'll come back to that later, if they are actually succeeding or not. But Esther, tell us a little bit of the experience of Woven in Spirals as you were editing it, as all these things. One, your experience as an editor.
As a reader.
But also, I want to think as you're editing something, you're reading it, you're digesting it, you're trying to understand its entirety, if that word exists. So tell us, one, your experience as an editor, but also your experience as a woman who may or may not have been, I may not know, who has been discriminated before. Your experience.
I missed a very great opportunity to edit the book. I think I would have loved it, I didn't. But I will talk about it from the perspective of a reader. For me, one, it's the title itself that stands out. And just seeing, when I was reading the book, I actually came to realize that for every experience that we go through, good or bad or ugly or however tragic it is, if we are cautious enough, we realize that God is working for every event that happens. He's weaving our lives in a very, very beautiful pattern. Because it's when you reach at a certain point in life and realize, oh, this happened, because this had to happen. So I think after reading the book, when I put it down, I thought, this is a beautiful book actually. Whatever is happening in my life is pre-planned, but it's also working out for a greater good. After all, Scripture says everything works out together for the good for those that love the Lord. So I think it has taught me to appreciate every event in my life. So instead of crying when I should and thinking life is hard, life is bad, why am I here? I like to sit and think, this has happened, it is bad, I don't like it right now. But God, I know you're using this for a greater good. And I like to sit and ask myself, what am I learning from this experience? What is it teaching me? Is it making me a better person? And then I from those lessons, I know it is preparing me for something bigger, something better. And so the book is teaching me, and I'm now learning to appreciate life, regardless of what is happening, to just appreciate life and know that God has got this.
So it's not entirely about priesthood. Even you who is an editor, even me who is a journalist, I can read something and I can read the book and it guides me in that same direction. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. It's not just
so it's not tailor-made for priests. It's tailor-made for everyone.
Everyone, because we are all not going to be priests, but God is going to use us in our different fields. As an editor, He's using me, helping with the books. As a journalist, He's helping you. As a lawyer somewhere, He's working within us in the different fields. Yeah. And that's how I think what He meant when He says, go into the world. Those are the different worlds, our worlds of influence, our spheres of influence, and the things that are happening. How is my story going to help another younger girl out there when she reads it? What is she going to pick that is going to help her take her life to another level? Because this is what this book is doing for me. She's talking about priesthood and whatever happened, but then I'm reading it and I'm thinking, I can borrow every other thing, all 35 years of experience, and bring them into my life and say, what am I going to take from here? So that where I would have experienced gone through something and worried about it, it has helped me to pick lessons and make what would have been a longer experience a whole lot shorter. It's kind of like a shortcut to life. So that's the beautiful thing about the book.
Rebdi, allow me to talk to you about the title, Woven in Spirals. One, how did you even think about it? Two, what does it even mean? I know many people are like, woven? What does woven mean? Muluganda, woven chitegezachi, something like that.
Okay, Muluganda, it means okuruka.
Okuruka.
Yes.
Okay.
Woven in Spirals was inspired by one of my archdeacons. Okay. I had left theological college. I was dropped off a list. Then I was commissioned worker in Namirembe Diocese. And then because I was pregnant, they dropped me when they were making the first deacons. Then I was made a deacon, and then I was dropped again when the second bump showed. And I was like, am I living in sin? Didn't Christ come through the womb? I was not sick. I had all these questions, and for a while I left Uganda and I went to South Africa, and I received a different type of shock. I thought these were activists, anti-apartheid. And still the women were being treated the same way. Yeah. And they were fighting for black people's rights. But I said, at one stage I told them that you can't if you don't respect the very women you live with. And so how can anyone respect you if you don't respect one another? And it was there when they didn't know where to place me. Actually, I often say that they got two priests for the price of one. Wherever we went with Solomon, for those who may not know, Solomon is my late husband. Wherever he went, people are like, I remember someone tapping me at the airport. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a real priest, or are you wearing this
you're
because
just
you're the
for just-
wife? You're the wife of the
You're
priest.
the real priest.
Yes. And then there's,
Yeah.
can we touch you?
Oh.
Sorry, I'm not meant to touch you.
Well, they were asking you if they
Yes,
can
they were
you.
like, they wanted to have a conversation like, can this happen?
Yeah.
So when I went, I was in the cathedral.
Mm-hmm.
There was a whole lot of weaving there. I was almost dropped again.
Mm.
I was kept outside the retreat, which was meant to be for 1 week. I only went in for 1 day. The story you'll read. As I was being priested, you usually, when you're a deacon, you wear the stole or the sash from across your shoulder and tied on your left-hand side.
Yeah.
So they change it. When you're being priested, they make you wear the stole, and it falls down the front of your, down the front. And our archdeacon, who is a lovely man, he recently passed away, Reverend Canon Ernest Chibuka. As he was doing it, he was having a conversation with me. And you know, I was stressed because I didn't know if I was in the right place. And he put the sash and he said, Mwana wange, echibbo bakiruka kyetoloola. Which means a basket is woven in spirals. And I thought, oh, lugero lwe Kiganda, how am I going to understand this? But really, when I look at my life, he said, yes, God is, you think you should be going straight. And God, it seems God is shaping you, but it's a purposeful shaping, because the basket is used for so many things.
True.
It's to carry, it's to do ministry, it's used to give. It became a powerful symbol in my life. So the basket, as you can see, even the design, ekibbo ekiganda oba kikiga oba kinyankole simanyi, but the chibbo is, for me it's very powerful. Do you know it's made out of such frail grass? And then they bind it, and it's those bindings, those spirals where it's painful because they pour water on it, and then they tie it tight, but it's creating a shape, and something that can be used, something with a purpose. Yes, so that's where the title came from.
Interesting. Woven in spirals. Now I get it. Before I wasn't getting it, but I now get it. Earlier on, Esther was talking about particular principles she was learning from the book as she was reading. According to you, what's that one principle for you in the book that you write about in the book that not to spoil the book, but you can highlight and say this particular principle is what got me through all those years, that motivated me? Because I'm sure there are times you would wake up and say, but mfachi rachi sichivamu kino ekintu nkirekere Reverend Solomon, something like that. Rachi sichivamu. What's that principle that kept you saying, you know what, I need to keep going and keep doing this thing?
For me, I think the thing that took me through was having conversations with God. You know, honest conversations, difficult conversations sometimes with my leaders that perhaps may have been seen as offensive. But I kept conversing with God. Nothing that happened to me made me run away. I kept going back to God. Sigwe wampita.
You're the one who put me in this thing.
Yes.
Why don't you?
So now you better work it out. But if you want me, I'll step down. You know, I was having honest conversations. But everybody in this life, despite people may not understand your call or your place, you have a cheerleader in life. My greatest cheerleader was Dr. Solomon. Many times when he saw I was despondent, he would say, "Wait, don't you know what you have to offer to the world? Get up. and serve the best in this capacity. Also, what I want to say, as much as it looks like it was men who let me down, there were many men who actually supported me, who actually woke me up to my potential.
Yeah.
And the greatest lesson I learned was one of humility. You need a lot of humility when you're waiting for God to move. And you're thinking, but you told me. Why isn't it going the way that, you forget it? I think, but God is weaving it. God is the great weaver of life. He's weaving your life now, Byron. And we don't even know where you're going. You might have a dream.
Right.
And some of these painful incidents that I went through became places where I built up a strong ministry around. That's why I ended up in the ministry mainly of compassion of broken people. Because at one stage I worked really at the periphery of the church, like I could not lead a church congregation. They told me the church was not ready for me. And so on the periphery, outside the walls of the church, there was so much that the church wasn't doing, so I went for it.
You were like, you know what? All
yes,
right.
Yes.
Let me go and do
and
it.
Another principle perhaps is that you don't have to have a title to lead.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
We fight for titles and recognition, but sometimes you don't need a title to lead. It's the impact that matters.
All right. We're going to go in for a very, very short break, but when we come back, we'll be continuing the conversation about this awesome book that you need to get. And Esther and Reverend Canon Diana will be telling us where to get the book, how to get it, and also share a few insights from the book so that you need to catch it as soon as you can. Let's go in for break. We'll see you after this break.
Brethren, yes we can. We can clear the debt of church house. And I want to invite you to give generously to the love gift. May God bless you as you give.
Easy Change Forex Bureau. We deal in all major foreign currencies like US dollars, British pounds, euros, Kenya shillings, and very many others. We are located at Church House Level 1, Shop Number 4 along Kampala Road. We operate from Monday to Friday 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on Saturday 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. For more information, contact us on 0706 09 4189 or 0783 837363. For the best forex rates, Easy Change Forex Bureau is your answer.
For staying with us. It's just About 18 minutes to the hour of 9, and you're still watching Church of Uganda Family TV, and with me today I have the Reverend Canon Diana Nkesiga and Esther Chisachi.
Navaga.
Why do I say it? Anyway, from Quiet Garden Publishing House. Thank you guys for coming. We are discussing the book Woven in Spirals, Reverend Canon Diana Nkesiga's book that was launched last Friday. Today we are going to discuss this segment, where we're going to get it and whatnot. But before we go there, allow us get an I practiced this word before coming on air. An excerpt from the book, and they're just going to be reading a few things from the book that you need to really look out for. Esther, you're the one taking us. Please.
Thank you so much. I think about books give you an experience even as you're reading them. And when I was reading, and Reverend Diana talked about how when she was not allowed into active ministry in church, but then she went ahead and did other things. She still served in the different capacities. But she was talking about the HIV/AIDS ministry at that time when AIDS was misunderstood. There were so many myths around it.
Yeah.
And she writes on page 70, and she says, this time she was in hospital, and she says, overburdened by her weight and overcome by grief, the only soothing words I could whisper in her ear were the words of Psalm 23, which I recited repeatedly until she fell asleep on my lap for what seemed like an hour. When she woke up, she sat up, smiled, and declared that she felt better. In fact, she said she was healed. With a broad smile on her face, she looked at me and clambered off my lap back into her bed. She asked for her pills and swallowed them with a glass of milk, and then lay down to rest. I slipped away quietly only for a minute to relay the goodies to her sister over the phone, and when I returned, I found her face turned upward. She was lying so still. Her face was angelic, the corners of her lips were lifted in a smile. Her long, beautiful braids strained out on the pillow, and the nurses were ready to cover her with a white sheet. She's asleep, only asleep, I thought to myself. It is an experience that changed my life for good. When I was reading this, I was praying actually, and I was saying, this should have a good ending. This should have a good ending. This should be she survived, but then she died. But when I kept reading, and I read about how Reverend Diana stood in the ministry, where because even the doctors themselves were afraid of the patients that they were treating, and how she would come and hold them and just be with them when their families didn't understand what was going on, when so many people had abandoned them, and she just came, and she was the person that just comforted them, was there with them in those trying moments. I felt, oh my God, so much has come a long way that we do not know about. There's so much that we take for granted. The fight for HIV/AIDS, because I lost a brother to HIV/AIDS, and it kind of was speaking to me. But the good thing is that he was sick in a time where we don't discriminate against them anymore. We understand what we are treating. We know, if I hold him, I'm not going to get HIV/AIDS. I just need to take these precautions and be more careful. And so it touched my heart. It's kind of like the same thing of how far the fight for the women equality and emancipation has come. Right now, there's so much I can do as a woman, but it's easy for me to take that for granted because it seems like it's always been the order of the day. Women have always been accepted, even with the different challenges that we meet, but it's not as bad as it was so many years then. So for me, it was an appreciation of the people that have come before us, that have fought so much. Reverend, because there's where Reverend Diana also talks about when she would meet the girls that were going that had HIV, and they would have retreats, and then they would talk about the experiences and the comfort of knowing it's not only me that is going through this, there's someone else. And because I was reading, and at a certain point I had to put the book down because I almost cried. This book takes you through so many emotions. You want to cry, you're angry, and then at then, sometimes she says something like, yes, now this happened. Yes, she didn't give up. Yes, but then, it has so many emotions, but it makes you sit down and just reflect on your life as well. Think about the privileges that you have as a person right now. But then you also ask yourself, what am I going to do with these privileges? Am I going to sit back and fold my hands?
Yeah.
Or am I going to use, in my different fields, am I going to learn something from this, but then also make the experiences make an impact in my own world, in my own way. It may not be big, it may seem insignificant, but yes, it's going to touch a life or two, and it's going to make them give a purpose for their lives. Remember, I'm here for a purpose, and pick themselves up again. So yes, that really stood out for me.
Guys, get the book, man. I already want to read it. I know when Esther talks about emotional roller coaster, I kind of, I know Rev D, and emotional roller coaster is what I expect. Rev, did you also want to read something, or?
Perhaps it's a bit long, but what I wanted to say that at the end, I write a poem about the blessing of humiliation. Now, many times people look at humiliation. How could that be a blessing? Perhaps, I don't know if you want me to read a bit of it, but it's a bit long. But what I wanted to say, really, at the end of the day, sometimes you have to have the discernment, and I don't think I had it. God told me to stop in my tracks, to choose between humility and humiliation. There's between humility and humiliation.
That seems like a very obvious choice. Humiliation and humility?
Yes, especially if it's something to do with justice. You like, if I confront this, I will be humiliated. So I have to step back. The humility is stepping back and allowing God to deal with it. Because you might be trying to deal with a person who's taking it personally. But this is, you're trying to change a mindset. So there was a time when, you know me, I can stand up for the truth. But when God asked me, step back, take humility, continue doing what they've asked you to do, and then God sorts it out. He uses it in a powerful way to become a blessing. Sometimes there were also blessings of tears. It's something that made you cry in your spirit. And then God turns it around to be something beautiful. And you look back at where you started and you say, hey, how did it turn into something that blessed another person? Yes.
For those of you who are choosing humiliation, please, may God convict you to choose humility every day. Friday, you launched the book on Friday.
Yes.
Tell us about that experience. Who did you have there? Tell us about that experience of launching and whatnot.
It was a very exciting moment for me to have my publishers help me launch the book. At the launch, I had my classmates. One of them, a professor at UCU, he said to me, I didn't know all this happened to you, and yet we were great friends. I had one classmate from Bishop Tucker, and then we had classmates from Gayaza, all very, women who are known out there. Betty Kasimbazi, Ministry of Finance, people like Beatrice Langap, Beatrice Admola was my teacher, and many others who are part of this story. I had my family, representatives of my family, and then we also had, of course, friends, and then the publishers. But we had Miriam Atembe as as our guest of honor.
Yes.
And she was in her element. You can find that on YouTube if you want to hear her speech. You know that it was very animated, very passionate, and very honest.
Yeah.
But the men who were there said that it didn't crush their spirits. They felt like what she was saying was the truth. But many times people think because she's very animated in the way she says it. So we were online and
Yes.
Church of Uganda online, and people have since have logged in and watched excerpts of the of the proceedings. But yes, we launched the book. I autographed it. We were in Fairway Hotel, by the way, and soon it will be even the people online, those who are abroad can get it Kindle. And this will be in Aristoc and Uganda Bookshop for now. If you want an autographed one, you have to find me and you pay a little more.
Yes.
But really, we are excited, and we want to encourage more Christians to write. The Ugandan story is just still oral. People have gone through so much and have then used it in a mighty way to become a blessing to this nation. I think people need to know your story. And actually, when you write your story, you actually also look back and say, hey, is this actually what it all meant? They were not just bad incidents. They were God's weavings.
The future. What does the future look like for you as an author? Are you planning on publishing? Should we expect more?
I have poetry which I haven't submitted to anybody. I have a book on grief care, a manual, which I haven't submitted to anybody. I have everybody saying, you avoided writing about All Saints and your experience there. But by the time I came to All Saints, I was over 10 years in the priesthood. So this was particularly to celebrate my 25 years in the priesthood and 30 years in ministry. So there's a lot. There's the 12 years of my missionary journey with Solomon and the children. There are other books that I'm writing.
Right. So it means this is not the last.
I need them to applaud me and cheer me on.
All right, Esther. As we conclude, Quiet Garden. Is it open to anyone? If I have my scripts there, can I come? And how does it exactly work? Or if I come with just the idea and I say I want to talk about my life as Byron, how does it work at Quiet Garden Foundation?
We believe that everyone has a story to tell, and we all learn from one another. We learn from each other's experience, and we encourage as many people as there is to write. There are people that are comfortable with writing; they write and send the manuscript. There are people that they have a story to tell, but they don't have experience with writing. They don't feel they're good enough with writing. So in whichever form that you come, as long as you feel like I have a story and I need to tell it because of A, B, C, D, because you should have a reason to write your book. When someone comes and tells me, I'm writing a book, the first question I ask is, why are you writing the book? What do you want the reader to take home with your book? So it's not just a matter of, I have a story. You should know, I have a story, yes, but what am I going to write about? Why should someone pick up my book and read it? So when you feel you have a reason, you can come to Quiet Garden. All our social media platforms is Quiet Garden UG. So you can give us a call, or our website. You can still message us there. And so it's not, if you feel you can write but I'm not comfortable writing, you can still come. We can work out a way on how we can help you get the story out there, because the most important thing is getting that story out there. The book will outlive you, and your story will impact someone for so many years to come. And so yes, there are books that you read right now that were written about 100 years ago, and it's amazing how applicable they are right now in your life. So, yeah, it's what will outlive you. So, yes.
Reverend Canon Diana Nkesiga, you didn't tell us how much when I go to Aristoc, or how much should I budget for?
Budget for 35,000.
35,000.
Yes,
all
budget
right.
for 35,000. But you can give us a little more so we can continue this good work.
Of course. The book is 35,000 and more. Please go and go and get the book. It's at Aristoc now. Is it in store now?
Yes.
Aristoc and
Uganda Bookshop.
Uganda Bookshop.
Yes.
Please go and get the book, Woven in Spirals, The Journey of an African Woman to Priesthood. I'm personally going to go and buy my copy this week, not today.
You're getting an autograph too.
This week. And I'll come for an autograph. Hopefully she won't charge me more for it. But please go and get the book, Woven in Spirals. Our time is far spent, but thank you so much, Reverend Canon Diana, for coming through, and Esther from Quiet Garden Publishing. Ish. Thank you so much for coming today. Always a pleasure. Please go watch the YouTube video of the book launch if you haven't already. But also get the book and learn much more. They have just given us snippets, like that story that Esther read about HIV/AIDS experience and scenario. That's just a snippet, but you need the whole book for you to be a better version of yourself, right? And be encouraged and choose humility always. We are going to go in for Step Up now, where we encourage young entrepreneurs who want to do something with themselves, write a book or anything. Please stay tuned, don't go anywhere. This is Church of Uganda Family TV. We'll see you tomorrow at 6:45 a.m. here on Family TV. See you tomorrow.